and welcome to the ACRL World Endurance Championship. We are live for the final round at the amazing Suzuka circuit located in Japan. This race course holds some of the most iconic moments in motorsport history. This is where Formula 1 star Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost come to blows several times when their championships were on the line, where Michael Schumacher won his first ever driver championship with Ferrari. And if that wasn't enough, then you have an endless list of high quality standing champions or championships who visit this place every single year. Then what better place than to hold the final for the ACRL WEC, a place that holds heritage and prestige. And we have some great battles lined up for you this evening as the points come to a close after 6 rounds of racing. You can almost feel the tension in the air, and I'm nowhere near the circuit itself when I say that. And as always, just to add to the suspense to the teams that are down there on the track surface now, we're going to run through the standings with you here and now before going down to the teams currently carrying out their qualifying laps. So as things stand then, with the current order of things, Frits van der Zalm for JMT Hybrid holds 490 points in total. He in the LMP1 class is almost nigh untouchable at the moment, so don't expect to see much change for the championship standings there. However, going down the order, that's where things begin to change. We have Tony Rubio for McSultan's Racing on 264 points. Fairly good result for him, but any mistake here this evening, if he DNFs, then he could lose out that second place position. And in third is Tom with 456 points on the board. Sadly, he had a DNF 2 weeks ago at Spa. That's really hurt his championship points, with that being said, but that is deducted. I believe they said earlier that they take away the worst result of your race, so therefore it should not affect his overall standings. But still, opportunities to go forward there for Tom if he can get a good result, and Tony has a rotten day. Then we have Glebczynski in fourth. He's got 432 points, followed by Sylvain Valette with 420. In sixth place we have Pazam, 414 points for him, followed by Puma with 394. Now the shock of this championship has been Luca Babito, JMT Hybrid driver with 385 points. A DNF at round 5, followed by a no-show at Spa, means that he's way down the order. Of course, he was in second place, no more. He's off the standings completely, all the way down the order in 8th place. Then we have F0 Racing with Nitrax with 381 points. Opportunities to go up the order if he is here this evening. Then we have Petrol with Supernova Racing, 356 points on the board for him, followed by Hazy with 340. Junior Racing in the forms of Mustang SVT with 305 points, and then we have Sega Motorsports with Sorayan with 200. The RacingLine.net with Neil Sheard, 194 points for him, followed by Ruvix with 174, and the list goes on by quite some measure. So we'll move on to the GTEs then. The current standings for them, with Nassau Racing with Rennes Ducot with 392 points on the board, and Bas Boma doing exactly the same. Square Wheel Racing, 392 points for him as well. Then we have Lukaszek with 391 points. Very close for these top 4 teams, because Rune Jansen for Nassau Racing once more 1 point down with 390 points. So the top 4 there, very close indeed. Square Wheel Racing with Matteo Pisani with 372 points, and Manux with 366 points as well. Then we have Ada with Sega Motorsports GT with 351, followed by JM Torpedo with Samuel with 349. Then we have Koof Racing Team 3 with Kimo Lepenen with 343 points, and then we have Gilly Volters with JM Torpedo again with 342. Supiyam with Northern Exposure with 331, followed by Gianni Sali with Koof Racing Team 3, 331 points for him as well. They're tied in that position. LKF Racing with Ace Rod with 312, and then we have Mario Hur with 312 points himself as well. Pazir Malinen, Kuf Racing Team 1, 309 points. And then we have his teammate, Jenny Lahanen, with 300 points himself. We won't go down the order of GTE and the rest of the grid because, frankly, we will be here all night. But, of course, it's not about the standings. Of course, everything that has led up to this moment is due to what's happened in the previous rounds. But right now, all eyes need to be on what is going on in front of us here this evening. 28 minutes of qualifying left, and currently we have 6 LMP1 cars, and the remainder of them are GTEs. And it's Frits van der Zalm who currently leads the way in his LMP1 car with a 141.732. That is extremely close because right behind is Rob Lewis. Now, I haven't seen Rob Lewis before, if I'm truly honest. We didn't read him out in the standings, so I'm not too sure where he's miraculously appeared from, but he is extremely quick, 141.800, 0.7 hundredths of a second off the pace of Frits van der Zalm, so it could be one to watch out for. Then we have Pazan with a 141.878, followed by Tony Rubio with a 141.929. So those top 4 teams are extremely competitive, and no doubt going to be going wheel to wheel once the green flag is dropped. Then we have Sylvain Valette, 142.762, and Puma with a 143.540. Moving down into the, well, we can't actually go down into the GTE because they haven't even started their times yet. We still have a few more minutes left of these guys going around the circuit, and then we will have to hand over to the GTE side of things. What we will do is wait for one of the guys to start their next flying lap. Frits van der Zalm's just coming out of the pit lane as we speak. And what we'll do is wait for him to begin his next flying lap before we go on board and watch him set his next lap. Now, of course, the GTE field is the one that's going to be gathering the most attention here this evening. Frits has done an amazing job throughout the season to secure all of that point lead that he currently holds on to, and it is a fairly substantial gap, safe to say. So I believe Frits will take the championship at the end of this evening. Of course, we know that he's a quick driver as it is. We're used to seeing him actually stay on the podium. In fact, he's won so far 3 out of 6 rounds. That's half the championship where he has come first place, and all the other times where he has not won, he has come home in second. So it just goes to show what kind of competitive pace this man has. He's not to be beaten very easily, and he doesn't like coming anywhere other than that overall top spot. Get on the dash cam if we can. Lovely hot air balloon there at Suzuka in the distance, showing all of the spectators the spectacle about to occur below. I hope he's got enough fuel in that thing to last the whole race, because of course we are due a very long one indeed, the longest so far of the season, 120 minutes, 2 hours long. And just starting his next flying lap now, so stay over to the left hand side. You can aim for the apex on the first one and carry the speed through. Very difficult to trail brake here. Make sure you don't put too much pressure on those brakes, otherwise you will see it. Then over to the right hand side, then it's up by 1 gear, my personal preference, and then use those revs. Just keep that speed flowing nicely. If you use one of the lower gears, you're at risk of either overpowering through the corner or just simply wheel spinning altogether. Then over to the right hand side as much as possible to get a nice cut off for the next corner, and down to sector 2. 50-metre board is the braking mark for these LMP1s, and a huge amount of speed being carried through, and then you can cut the corner quite nicely as you go underneath the bridge. 0.148 seconds faster than his previous best. Then stay over to the right hand side, down the gears you go for the hairpin, one of the most tricky corners I believe at Suzuka. And it's pretty much full throttle here for these LMP1 cars and the GTEs here this evening as you get into sector 3. Then it's the braking board on the right hand side, carry the speed through, but don't accelerate. Just a little tap of throttle before you commit to the corner. It's a late apex before you power down and unleash all the ponies you have on the back straight. A little lift for the LMP ones as they go through the fastest corner in motorsport, dare I say. It's one of the fastest corners in the motorsport world. And then through the hairpin and across the line to do a 141.440, which is 0.3 seconds faster than his next competitor. Sylvain Valette is in the pit lane. He still hasn't improved on his previous lap time of 142.762. Fingers crossed he can improve there. On board with Pazam now, because of course he is going on a flying lap himself. Sector 1 not too impressive at the moment, so fingers crossed he can find some time in Sector 2 to rectify that issue. Don't believe that this was his flying lap, if I'm truly honest, because 1:17 for Sector 1, whereas 46 seconds for Fritz in Sector 1 that last time by. So yeah, this is his out lap. I'm pretty certain of that now after reading that information. So we'll see what he can do and put on the board in a few moments' time when he comes around to that start-finish line. Let's see what he has available in that Toyota hybrid. Very nice paint scheme. Gotta love a good Toyota car. And then I am biased because I like Japanese motors. Surely then important for these guys to win here this evening at Suzuka, because it's home territory for the manufacturers, of course. Underneath the hot air balloon he goes. I wonder if that thing moves as the race progresses. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. Through the curves he goes. Good performance so far. Let's have a look at his Sector 1 time. Comes across the brow of the hill. And it is green, 44.193. That's faster than what Fritz has put on the table thus far. It's not entirely purple, but 0.282 seconds quicker than his previous best. Down to the hairpin he goes, powering with everything he's got, using the hybrid technology. Down into Spoon Curve. This is turn 13 and 14. Ooh, missed the apex just a bit. It cost him a few miles an hour as he gets set up for the long straight course. This is the more important part, though. Seems like he didn't commit just as much as Fritz did on the run down to 130R there, which is obviously the next corner, the fastest corner here. Seems like he was slightly hesitant on getting on the power. Probably cost him about a tenth by the time he got down to the long straight. And as you can see, it's actually cost him 0.5 seconds even by the time he's got down to the last two corners, or Casio triangle. And across the line, 141.851 is an improvement over his personal best, but he lost out on the Sector 2 part of this circuit, and that's all because of that 130R corner. Or not the 130R corner, it's because of his exit from Spoon Curve, turn 14. And I reckon that's what's cost him all of that time. Tony Rubio then, the second man. What did I say? Second man? I said second place man. Jesus. So I've been commentating for 3 hours already with WCC, and I've my English is going to suffer greatly in the next hour and a half, if not longer. Tony Rubio on a slow sector 1 here. It's not going to be an improvement by the looks of things. It was a 44.419 for sector 1, so it's not completely slow. It's not very bad. 2.4 seconds off the pace. 48 seconds. That's not good news. But he's going to come back into the pit lane. All the cars are in the pit lane. Yeah, Pazam is coming back in now. 18 minutes left of this qualifying session. Waiting for the GTEs to go back out on track and start putting some times down then. Now, looking at my list, it does not appear that Bas Boma has attended this race, which means that all eyes will be on the top remaining 2 guys, and that's Resnikok, Luka Zek and Rune Jansen. Those 3 guys, let's see if they're all actually here. Rune Jansen is here, Luka Zek is here, and Resnikok are here. So we're going to have a 3-way battle in GTE for that overall top spot, and of course the championship win as well. Let's see how that pans out. All of them have attended every single round, I believe. Rune Jansen didn't attend round 2, so I'm not too sure how that affects his standings. Just waiting for that timer to hit that magical number so that they can all go out onto the circuit and begin their qualifying. And here we go, Lucas X, the first man out, waiting at the pit exit. Not many of the GTEs deciding to wait at pit exit. Maybe they're just hoping they'll get a bit of clearer air before qualifying starts. Let all the guys go out first of all and then come up behind them with some clearer traffic perhaps. That's logical thinking. Here comes some more of the cars, and of course the 20 more seconds before they can enter the track limits. All of the GTE cars enter the track limits. Here they go. All of the Corvettes and the Porsches and a few Ferraris for good measure entering the circuit of Suzuka. Of course, have to be careful of when they decide to leave a gap. Obviously condensed traffic at this stage of the session. Now will cause some issues for some of the guys here this evening. course, the outlap is important for these guys. Just going to warm up the tyres, weave left and right, get some temperature to build up, so you get that extra bit of grip for when you go on your first flying lap. Now, of course, they will be running a minimal amount of fuel on board these GTE cars to get the most out of that chassis, the power to weight ratio, everything. Every bit of performance from that car, the aero package, how light it is on the tyres, matters to these guys. It's worth minuscule in terms of seconds, tenths of seconds, you know, every single millisecond counts on this final round, especially for the guys at the front of the leaderboards and at the top of the championship table. Just coming in to 130R now. Using every single centimetre of tarmac there before he begins his first flying lap. Now, what the person behind wants to do is stay within the slipstream distance, but at a distance that it won't affect his own lap. Of course, you want to make sure that the air does not impede any performance here from your personal car. Now, I'm going to have to speak quite loud because the Corvettes are extremely noisy as a Ferrari comes out of the pit lane, and down into the first corner for the first time goes Lukaszek. Fourth gear, third gear, just carry that speed through and just let the car slowly decelerate before powering on to the curves. Just carry that speed through and fourth, just keeping them revs low so you can carry that momentum through before powering back on to the speed, hit that apex nicely and on to the run down towards the next set of corners. Through Degner curve, he's already gone heavy on the brakes into third gear before going underneath the bridge towards turn 10 hairpin. Bit too much speed on the entry there. Probably could have done with a bit more deceleration before turning in, when it kind of run off the apex on the run out to the next corner. Spoon curve, turns 13 and 14 down 2 gears. Well, no, he's staying in 5th, which is a surprise. Obviously, the Corvette's a low revving engine, but extremely loud at the same time. Powering down towards 130R, the GTs will have to lift here. Ever so slightly, he does so. Uses all the track available. And then heavy on the brakes down into second gear and carry the speed through. You can attack the curves quite aggressively here, but make sure you're not over on the right-hand side when you re-accelerate again, because it can compromise the exit onto the last corner. Across the line, the first time set is a 1:58.807. Blimey, I think I nearly lost my voice commentating that flying lap, because these things are so incredibly loud when you're going on the onboard camera there. Okay, so Lukaszek holds the first or podium position in GTE at the moment. You've still got Rune Jansen in the pit lane. He's still yet to come out onto the track limits. And where is Renzdikov? He's just set a 2:014. So his nearest competitor not near the top on the last lap round. Of course, that could be due to traffic. Then we have Jay Koberts, 1:59.155, followed by Kimo Lepanen, 1:59.270. So already he's got at least 0.3 to 4 seconds of room to play with, and he's already going faster on this lap around. Let's have a look at the live timing, see if we can get an updated sector time. 51.238, 0.3 seconds faster than Jonas Koberstein in second place there. And his fellow colleague, or his fellow rival, Renzdikov, did what, 52 in Sector 1. So 0.8 seconds faster that lap time round. It's just coming up towards the end of Sector 2 now, which is underneath this bridge. .130.2, so it's a slightly slower pace through sector 2 there compared to his personal best. 54.832. It is an improvement still though, 158.616 as he comes across the line for the second time. It's an extra 0.2 seconds off his personal best lap time. We have a new person in second place, that's Kimo Lepanen, 159.090, and Jonas Koberstein has been demoted all the way down to 4th place because Oversteer is in 3rd with a 159.122. There's nothing in it, 300ths of a second in between those two times there, and really nothing between them. 1/10 between Oversteer. Oh, Rensterkop's just gone into second now. Of course, this is the part where I lose complete control as everyone sets their fastest lap times for the session. But Rensterkop 159.023, 0.4 seconds slower than Lucas X time there. So he's got to find something extra out of that box if he's going to take this pole position away for the final. Of course, a small reminder that these three guys are at each other's throats for the final round because they know that a win here over the other two will mean victory for the championship overall, and that's why this is so important for them. Qualifying is vital for Suzuka, especially for those first couple of laps going through the S-curves in Sector 1. That can be a really good opportunity to get a small advantage over your competitors at the start of the race. If you're held up in traffic or if you're having issues, then that's where it will be. It will be when you're stuck behind everyone else. Sector 2 is green for Rensterkop that time by, but his Sector 1 time isn't that good. In fact, his last lap time was 51.8, and he's just decided to come into the pit lane despite going green in Sector 2. He knows that his Sector 1 time was not enough to get anywhere near Lucas X best. Where is Runes Jansen though? He's on the medium tyre compared to everyone else. Everyone else is on soft, and I'm not too sure why, but he's still in the pit lane. So issues there perhaps for Rune Jansen. He's got 6 minutes remaining to get a decent lap time. Perhaps he's waiting for a bit of rubber to get down on the circuit. Not too sure what's going on there. I believe he has a possible penalty. I remember reading just before we went live that he could possibly have a penalty, but I'll need someone else to confirm that for me before I start making my own assumptions. I don't want to give people a bad name when it could just be me. Lucas X still holding on to that position though. No improvements thus far from the leading man. Rensterkop is just up the road as he exits the hairpin. 5 minutes remaining for these guys though. I think Rune Jansen may not be allowed to conduct qualifying because it seems very odd how you only get 15 minutes of qualifying time and yet he's still in the pit lane when his championship could be on the line as a result of this. That means that Rune Jansen is going to have a hell of a lot of work to do in the next 2 hours of this race, because if not, then it will be a two-way battle between Rensterkop and Lucas Ek. Rensterkop doing another flying lap as he comes across the start finish line. 2:18. Of course, that is not on pace whatsoever. That is his first warm-up lap, or his out lap rather. As he comes powering down into turn 1 for what could be the final time. We'll just enjoy this on board as he goes around and see what he can do or produce before the green flag jobs for the race. So green sector 1 there, so hopes could be high here in that cockpit. It's a good sector 1. Sector 2 not so good though, it's a white, not a green. Is it enough though? Because Qual has just gone into second place, demoting Renstecock down into, and he's just undone it. So Renstecock goes with a 158.934, not enough to demote Lucas X from that overall top position. He's just gone even faster, in fact, with a 158.522 over the competition, and that's put it back to exactly where it was before. In fact, the only thing that's happened there is that Qual has been demoted back into P3 and allowing Renstecock to stay on that front row of the GTE order. Going down the rest of the GTE cars, we have Jenny Sally, who is in 4th in class with a 159 dead, only 4 thousandths on top of that 59 barrier. And then we have Jake Herberts with a 159.119, Oversteer with a 159.122, Matteo Pisani with a 159.297, Manux with a 159.360. Just you're getting the, I hope you guys are getting the idea of just how competitive the GTE field is here this evening. Team ASD 159.522, Super Yam 159.575, Vafel 159.951, and Malinen with a 159.958. That is crazy. All of those cars within a second of one another is absolutely crazy. So can't wait to see what they can bring to the table. Obviously, Runes Jansen, the only car that hasn't been able to post a time as of yet. Then we have rest of the cars with the likes of Mario Hu in 13th place, 2 minutes .036. Ada with the 2 minutes .178. Not sure who this is. I've not seen them before. Dirk P. I think it's Dirk P. Ho with a 2 minutes .408. Avandessa 2 minutes .805, and then Smarties World with a 201.657. That is overtime reached for the qualifying session. Last remaining laps for these guys. If he can grab anything out of the bag, then now is the time to do it. And it looks like Rune Jensen confirms in the live chat that he has received a qualifying ban. So that is a tremendous shame. Of course, it's going to make it very difficult for him to, Rune Jansen, to make his way up the order. Of course, we want to see a three-way battle for the championship lead in GTE, but that's the way it goes sometimes, I guess. Doesn't appear to be much improvement across the board for these guys. Now, what Rune Jansen is going to have to do, he can start on the medium tyre, which may be advantageous, but we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. And Lukaszek just coming across the start finish line now. Still got Reznikov out there on circuit, and Lukaszek is going to go for one last time across the line. 158.702, so it's 0.2 seconds slower. So here are the qualifying results for you. Fritz van der Zam takes first place, followed by Tony Rubio and Rob Lewis. Then we have Pazam in fourth, followed by Puma in fifth, and Sylvain Valette. Then we have in the leading GTE, Lukaszek in 7th, followed by Reznikov in 8th, and Kimo Lapinen in 9th, or 4th place rather. And the rest of the order is as you see it. Unfortunately, it's moving far too quickly for my eyes to catch up and for me to read. Jenny Sally is in 10th place, followed by Team ASD in 11th, and then we have Jonas Koberstein in 12th. What we're going to do now, guys, is we will go to a short commercial break while we wait for these guys to get all lined up and ready to race, and we'll be right back with the final round live for you. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to the live stream for the final round of the ACRL WEC. We are currently live at Suzuka circuit and about to get underway for 2 hours of racing. At the moment the teams are going around the circuit completing their warm-up lap before they unleash all of the ponies underneath their bonnets onto this great Japanese circuit. Let's run through the order for you just quickly with the qualifying results now. So, leading the way and in class, we have Frits van der Zalm with a 1:41.233, followed by Tony Rubio in the Audi R18 behind. Rob Lewis lines up in third, followed by Pazam and Puma in their Toyota hybrids in fourth and fifth. Sylvain Vellet rounds out the LMP1s in sixth place. And then we get to the GTEs. Lucas X, a great demanding performance by him, followed closely by Renz de Kock and Kimo Lepenen. Then Jean Paris, followed by Jay Koberstein and Oversteer, and then Matteo Pisani in 14th overall. Then we have Manux, Supiyam and Avandesa, and then Ada in 18th. Then we have Verfel, Malinen, Mario Hoor in 21st, followed by Dirk Piho, Smarties Weld and Rune Jansen. Now Rune Jansen, of course, suffering from that qualifying ban. So that is the qualifying results for you. Let's get rid of that off our screens because of course they are just navigating their way around the last few corners here at Suzuka before we go live and racing. Frits van der Zalm will control the lead of the LMP1 class. And he'll have to wait until he gets to the start-finish line before he gets the go-ahead to take the rest of the grid racing. The same goes again for the rest of the field as well. And he's gone now, so early start from Frits van der Zalm as he comes down the start-finish straight and leaves the rest of the field in dust. But here comes the hybrid technology coming into play as Pazam and Tony Rubio go for each other into turn one. Tony Rubio holding on though to his second place. Then we have the start of the GTEs because Lucas Ek is underway into turn one. Looks like Kimo Lepenen is having a go at Renz de Kock and it's defending down the inside line. He goes. Kimo Lepenen takes away that second place in that very wildly painted Corvette C7, but Renz de Kock's not having any of it. He takes the inside line into turns two and retakes the position before entering the S's. Great stuff here. Overtakes going on up and down the order in both classes as Frits van der Zalm extends his lead, going under the bridge now for the first time here at Suzuka. Rob Lewis has gone down by one position. Pazam taking advantage of the start situation, and we have Sylvain Vellet as well moving up into P5 and demoting. Oh, and actually there's a spin there from Sylvain Vellet, and Puma has gone back into position in P5, so he's lost out already on what he has gained. Lucas Ek, though, still leading away, 0.3 seconds comparison to Renz de Kock, who's close behind and on his heels, not letting the guy get away this early on in the race. Then we have Oversteer, who's moved up by one position, up into P6 in class with his Ferrari 488. Pazam moving further up the order as well. Rob Lewis down into fourth now, so but -1 position for him. But Tony Rubio 2 seconds adrift of Frits van der Zalm as they enter the end of lap one, so already a commanding performance there by the JMT hybrid driver. Rune Jansen as well, the other championship competing driver, now up by 3 positions into 15th place in class and 22nd overall. So looking to get up the order as quickly as possible so he can fight for this Drivers' Championship. And coming across the line for the first time for the GTE cars. 1.4 seconds now between Lucas X and Renz de Kock, who's 1.5 seconds behind as they enter the S's for the second time. Then we have Kino Lepenen, 0.6 seconds adrift of the first 2 cars. And then we have Gianni Sali, who is himself 2.4 seconds. Now Team ASD is going toe-to-toe with that position as well. This is for P4 in class. and got all of the GTEs making it their way through this technical part of the circuit, of course carrying the speed through, and there's a massive train of machinery behind Gianni Sali as he enters Sector 2. Under the bridge they go for the second time. Of course, everyone's eager to get past, and very competitive midfield as well. Of course, the only people to even get a lap time within 1:58 were the top three that are where they are now. So all of the teams that you see in front of your screen right now, all did 1:59s, and were literally within a tenth or two of one another in qualifying. So a really competitive field or mid-pack GTE here this evening. Oversteer goes down the inside, nice move there, gets on the power in that Ferrari 488 and gets underway. So that is now 5th in class for that Ferrari, the most successful Ferrari on grid here this evening thus far. Going too wide as they come into 130R. Oversteer wasn't too sure if he had enough room there to get onto the racing line, but he did indeed, and makes use of it. Those glowing red brakes there as he comes accelerating down into Casio Triangle before powering back up to speed now onto the back straight, or the main straight rather. Pazam under attack by Rob Lewis, who seems to have found some speed once again, using that hybrid technology as best as he can. Of course the Toyotas appear to have a slight advantage in that field, but by no means the Audis are off pace or out of position by that means. Coming down into turns 13 and 14, which is Spoon Curve. Already on lap 3. It seems that maybe Pazam has better use of his hybrid, saving it for the run down to 130R. Seems like the better option here for the hybrids. Of course, you want to think about that overall top-end speed. Rob Lewis really missing the apex there for Casio Triangle, the first part of the hairpin. And back to Oversteer. Of course, these guys are extremely close at the moment and looking to take away P4 from Gianni Sali. Is he going to be able to do it though? He's got a nice tight exit of the turn 10 hairpin there, and will he be able to take advantage of that fact on the run down to Spoon Curve? Can't hold. Oh no, he's gone a bit too early there. He's going to run wide. Just about manages to make the corner within the track limits. He will get the slipstream, and behind is Koberstein, Jay Koberstein, and he's got a bit of a gap. And Oversteer goes down onto the inside into the hairpin Casio Triangle and takes that P4 position away. Now though, it's all on him. He carries the weight of the field that is eagerly trying to get past behind him, and he must focus. And the best thing you can do in this situation is to just get your head down and look directly ahead of you. Don't worry about what's coming up behind unless it's right on your tailbone. Just worry about what the next corner is and what you need to do to get the job done. Don't worry about gaps, don't worry about anything else other than that current lap. Seems to be doing the right thing because its gap is now 0.4 seconds going into Sector 1 and the curves. Got another battle going on between Team ASD and Jay Koberstein as well. Of course, this is where the action seems to be happening. And Rune Jansen still progressing up the order now into 11th place in class. Still a long, long way to go, though. He needs to get past P. Malinen, or Pazzi Malinen, if he's going to be able to have a chance, or any chance, of catching up to the mid-pack GTE field. Bit of a seizure there from Pazzi Malinen as he enters the hairpin. Gets straight back under the power though in his Porsche 911 RSR, holding off the Corvette train behind. they come down to 130R once more. Needs to get past as quickly as he can because Pasi Malinen is losing time to the cars ahead every single second. Now 3 seconds adrift as they enter the chicane. Lukasek steaming away in the lead of the GTE class as well, 1.6 seconds over Rensley Cox, so he has the advantage for the time being. Frits van der Zalm still leading the way in the LMP1 class, and the only change in position for these guys is Pazam and Rob Lewis, who have exchanged positions for 3rd and 4th, and even then they are 1 second adrift of one another as well. So I don't think we're going to see much change in the LMP1 field until they start having to fight their way through this GTE field. Oh, and Pasi Malinen makes a mistake going onto the entrance to turn 9 and under the bridge. Spins out, goes onto the grass on the right hand side, and that is a loss of position. Here comes Vaffel because he wants some of this action as well. Oh, and there's further contact made, and that is further bad news for Pasi Malinen. He's doing donuts and everything else, and he goes all the way down to 23rd place. And then you have Ada, who's going by as well. Obviously, he's been involved in some form of incident or another as well, but that's 3 positions that he lost out on as a result. Now, Rune Jansen goes out into 10th place in class, and he's got to make up 3.5 seconds if he's going to catch up to Vaffel in 9th. Now, of course, unfortunately, I haven't had the pleasure of getting to know Rune Jansen personally, but if I was in his situation, then I would be fairly comfortable with catching up with the rest of the GTE field. As long as I've got someone ahead of me, then I can stay in the zone and stay competitive, as all of the LMP1 cars make their way down the inside line. Fairly lucky there with the traffic, because that's going to help out Rune Jansen a hell of a lot, because half of the LMP1 field has passed him on the main straight. Not so lucky though for the mid-pack of the GTE field as we go on board with them, because things are going to get feisty very quickly between all of these guys. And Tony Rubio is actually in 1st place with Pazam in 2nd, so Frits van der Zalm has gone down by 3 positions after getting into contact, and Tony Rubio goes wide on the exit of turn 6 and tries to get back under, sorry, hiccups there, underway once again, which he does so in 3rd place though. So Pazam and Rob Lewis making headway for the LMP1 field, leading 1st and 2nd respectively. Only 0.4 seconds between the 2 of them as things stand. Still got to navigate their way around the top half of the GTE field as well. Got to be very careful whenever you navigate around the hairpin. Go past Kino Lapinen. She's coming up on the back of oversteer now, using that hybrid. Look at the speed difference as they come down towards 130R once more. Where is Frits though? Here he comes down the back straight in 4th place. Tony Rubio having to defend with everything he's got. Ooh, Frits van der Zalm nearly going wide at 130R, and it's very dangerous there because if you go onto the right hand side of that curbing, it can be very slippery. From my own personal experience, it can really hurt you. So want to make sure you don't touch that stuff with the right-hand side tyres. Go past oversteer as well. Now the gap between them, he did a 146.9 compared to Tony Rubio's 152. So just goes to show how much time they lose if they get stuck behind some GTE traffic here at Suzuka. Oversteer also making good ground, because he is only 0.4 seconds adrift of Kimo Lapinen, so that's a really strong performance here by the Ferrari driver as he comes through the S-curves once more. one of the LMP1 cars go through, and that's going to be advantage oversteer as he hugs that inside line before getting to Degner curve. Heavy on the brakes before going underneath the bridge as well. Here he goes. Now Ferrari's looking very competitive indeed here this evening. On board with Tony Rubio as well, though, because he's going to be under attack from Fritz van der Zaal. 1.9 seconds, and even Rob Lewis ahead is struggling for pace as they come down to 130R. 0.4 seconds between those two guys. It's a three-way battle for second place at the moment. Puma is about 3.5 seconds behind, with Sylvain Villette falling off the order by around 21 seconds or so. So obviously involved in some form of incident. Too wide. Here comes Fritz, saving that hybrid technology before he gets to the start-finish line, and down into turn one they go. That's a good move for position, and Fritz retakes third in class. Kimo Lepeden under attack. Here comes the slipstream from the Ferrari. He looks down the inside, thinks better of it, tucks himself back behind the Corvette C7 before they reach the braking zone into turn one. There's hardly any distance between these two cars as they navigate their way around the S-curves. Really good stuff in front of us here. Another battle going on for between Jane Sally and Team ASD. 0.2 seconds between these guys, and they got Matteo Pisani as well, a three-way battle, and this is for 5th place in class. Rob Lewis going by on the right-hand side there. Oversteer going down into heavy into turn 10 hairpin, trying around the outside line, which is very interesting. I've not seen that one before, but he's got it stuck. He's got the inside line before he gets the run down towards Spoon Curve, and he takes that position 3 away in GTE. Amazing stuff there. Really didn't think that was doable. In fact, I've never seen it actually happen before in all my 10 or plus years of sim racing. Maybe I just haven't raced at Suzuka enough. Oversteer though into P3 in class. Up the road is Renz de Kock, and that's about 8 seconds adrift, or 8 seconds he needs to find if he's going to challenge for that second place. Renz de Kock though himself is around 1 second adrift from the leading man, Lucas Eck, in his Corvette C7. See if he can do it. On board with the mid-pack GTEs as well. This is for the top 5, of course, on board with Team ASD, and he's trying to take it away from Jane Sally and Matteo Pisani. Fritz van der Zaal still in 3rd place by about 0.6 seconds, and Tony Rubio 0.5 seconds adrift of him, and Pazam still leading by around 3 seconds in that LMP1 class for this moment in time. Here comes Fritz van der Zaal trying to take back this second place from Rob Lewis as they enter Spoon Curve. When's he going to use all of his hybrid technology? We know he likes saving it for an aggressive assault at a certain part of the track. It looks like he's using a bit of it here now as they come down towards the 130R. Looks like maybe Rob Lewis has got the same idea though, as they don't seem to make much ground after a certain point. But this is where Fritz likes to use most of his boost on the main straight, of course, down into turn 1, because he knows then it'll be difficult for the person to come back at them in the S-curves. Rob Lewis using his hybrid technology as well, but here comes Fritz. He's gaining all the time before he gets to the braking zone. Not close enough this time by. He'll have to wait another lap before he gets another opportunity to do the same. Tony Rubio closing the gap just ever so slightly, 0.5 seconds as well behind. So it's a three-way battle for second place in the LMP1 class. Fritz using some of the hybrid technology there to get away from Tony Rubio, make sure that he doesn't want to lose that position at this point of the circuit. And Maria Hoare in 12th place in class is under attack by Mernux, who's looking to take away his position. He gets it done down the inside into 130R, and nicely done there. But the Ferrari looks down the inside line for the chicane, but not close enough. Dirk Piho is looking to take that position away. He wants in on this action. P14 in class as well, and within striking distance of that Ferrari 488. It looks like Maria Hoare has made a mistake going into turn 1. A bit too much speed on the entry, and that's all it takes to ruin your day here at Suzuka, especially on iRacing, where there's a gravel trap on the exit, I believe, at some points, and that can really hurt your performance. But luckily it was fairly controlled there by Maria Hoare, and able to hold on to that P13 in class. Chris van der Zalm in the meantime is taking back second place, but Tony Rubio and Rob Lewis are going toe-to-toe with one another as well. Neither of them are giving up that easily, as they all manage to somehow get into single file and the exit of turn 1 into the S-curves once more. Now, this is where they want to behave themselves. They know that they can easily just stay tucked in behind and within striking distance of one another, wait for those opportune moments to explode that extra horsepower from the hybrid engine onto the rear wheels of these cars, and then that is when they will go into the distance at speed. Now, Fritz van der Zalm has got to find 3.2 seconds if he's going to challenge Pazan for the lead of this race. Obviously, it is a long road ahead. 1 hour and 40 minutes still remaining before the checkered flag is dropped here at Suzuka for the final round. And there you can see Pazan just in the distance there ahead, and 2.7 seconds now as we come out of the hairpin. Looks like Fritz got a really good flyer off the corner there. Fairly large gap now to the guys behind Rob Lewis and Tony Rubio. 0.1 second, sorry, 1 second, one entire second, and then half a second between those two guys. Tony Rubio obviously down by 2 positions, Fritz down by 1 himself. On the board with the leading man in GTE though, Lucasek looks like he's in a strong position to take the victory here. As things stand, of course, they will still need to come into the pit lane a few times to make sure they get those essential goods such as fossil oil fuels and rubber. Not much of a gap now between the two of them as they come into the hairpin though. .16, 1.6 seconds as things stand. It's a fairly smaller gap to what we're used to seeing in the last few laps, so maybe Lucas X is playing a strategic game here, who knows. We'll just have to wait and see. Further contact between Rob Lewis, Fritz van der Zalm and Tony Rubio. They get caught up in some of the GTE shenanigans, and as a result, Tony Rubio holding on to that second place. A bit of damage to the front wing of their LMP1 car, and Tony Rubio holding on to third as well. That means that Puma's gone back up the order as well. He's now in P4, and Fritz goes down all the way to P5 with a 5-second deficit. Pazan could not believe his luck, I guess, because now his lead has extended to 5 seconds with only 20 minutes of the race completed. Matthew Pisani looking to take 6th place in class from Team ASD. James Sally holding on to P5 for the time being by a nice margin of around a second. Matthew Pisani looking down the inside, playing a psychological game by looks of things, because he was nowhere near ready to take that position away, so perhaps he's trying to unsettle Team ASD by saying, I'm ready to overtake you at this time of the race. I want to progress and go up the order, and you're in the way, frankly. Bit of oversteer there as he comes out of turn 9 and underneath the bridge. Nicely held though, not much issue there, not much needed to control the GTE car from spinning out. There's a puff of smoke there from Team ASD's front right hand tyre as well. Of course, these cars do not have anti-lock braking systems whatsoever, so it's all down to the driver's input as to whether or not these tyres are going to seize or not. And of course that can cause issues if you're not too careful, can flat spot the tyres, which in turn will affect the handling in the long run, and you'll be forced to spend extra time in the pit lane getting new tyres. There comes the leading LMP1 car, Pazam coming down the back straight towards 130R, takes it full throttle as always for the LMP1s, and looking down the inside with a flash of headlights into Casio Triangle. It's going to interrupt the battle between Matteo Bazzani. He's got to do all of that work again now, because of course these guys ahead are going to get the easy life by letting the LMP1 just simply drive past at full speed, and that's how that is done. Jonas Koberstein in his blue Corvette C7 seems to be running into trouble. There's a fairly locked, quite high level of damage to the front end of that car. He's currently in P10, and it looks like some of the guys are going up the order as one car retires. That's Smarty World. Yeah, he's not on our screens anymore, so I believe he has retired from the race. Our first casualty then, just shy of half an hour of racing. Tony Rubio trying to navigate his way through the traffic along with Rob Lewis, who's defending that second place with everything he can. Steady on the power for these LMP1 cars. Of course, they are rear-wheel drive, and that means that there's a lot of power going to those rear wheels as Tony Rubio closes the gap before reaching turns 13 and 14. Can he get the job done down the inside? No, because the GTE car is in the way already, and Rob Lewis runs wide onto the curbing as a result, trying to carry the same amount of speed through when there's less room available. GTE traffic in the form of oversteer. He's still hanging on to that third place, but now shy of Renz de Kock by 9 seconds. Kazek is still leading, but by not much. And Rob Lewis loses out to Tony Rubio, who goes down the inside line using that hybrid boost to his advantage and clears Rob Lewis before they even reach turn 1 and the braking zone. It's 1.5 seconds to Lukaszek and Renz de Kock at the moment, the leading battle for the GTE Championship. Rune Jansen is all the way down in 8th place in class. He's got some damage to the front of his car, which is a shame. That's not good news for his championship hopes. Bit of a dent to the bonnet as well, as you can see. So not good news at all. He's going to have to find, somehow, he's going to have to find around 30 seconds worth of time if he's going to somehow challenge the 2 leading GTE cars at the moment, which is a really tall order for anyone, to be frank, especially when the competition is so competitive here this evening. Puma's going up the order now. He's actually gone up by 1 position since qualifying and has taken the position away from Fritz van der Stam. He's now caught up to Rob Lewis and Tony Rubio, so really strong recovery drive here after a bit of a shambles start. Losing now some on some ground, though. Here comes Rob Lewis on Tony Rubio as they get into turn 1 once more. No moves made this time though, but it just goes to show that these guys are really going at it in order to make sure that they stick onto the back of one another. Pazam, in the meantime, 4.5 seconds up the road. Not a comfortable lead, I would say, especially in a race such as this. Still 1.5 hours remaining, but I'd have to say he's still smiling and feeling fairly comfortable up the road, out of sight. Qual seems to be gaining some time on the leading GTE man, WEC, as it goes down to 1 second. And we also have a battle between Jay and Sally and Team ASD in the mid-pack for the GTEs as well. That's going to be for P6 rather. Both yellow Corvettes, one just has loads of funky paint on it. Matteo Pisani, who was the car in 7th, seems to have fallen back ever so slightly from this position. Down into turn 1 once more. Remember, this is for 5th in class in the GTE field. Jane Sally holding on to that position fairly comfortably at the moment. Doesn't seem too phased with the fact that Team ASD is behind him. 0.3 seconds between the two of them at the moment. This is actually the closest battle that we have on screen at the moment. We've also got Tony Rubio still going at it with Rob Lewis. Last lap was a 1:43.210, and Rob Lewis goes fastest lap with a 1:43.156. So Fritz van der Stam seems to be struggling at the moment in his Toyota Hybrid. Not too sure of the condition of that front wing. It looks very damaged indeed. Look at the scuff marks on that. It looks like maybe even the top layer of that thing has been removed, and that will be causing some turbulence, especially through the high speed corners such as 130R and through these S curves. Of course, that was the incident earlier with some of the GTE traffic, so that's really going to hurt his recovery drive and his lap by lap pace. His last lap was actually a 1:43.413, so he's on pace in terms of his lap by lap speed, but it appears, of course, that Fritz has lost some performance. He was the fastest man in qualifying by a fairly comfortable margin, but not so anymore after sustaining this substantial damage. Lucasek now being slowly caught by Qual within 1 second now, so he will have a slipstream in effect as he comes through the S curves. Amazing exit there from Lucasek. Looks like he's really nailed this section of corners during his time in practice, and has to be said, it's going to be a hard man to beat here this evening. He really wants this championship title, and yeah, good luck to anyone trying to stop him here this evening. Qual, though, is the man to do so if he has the pace to do it. Last lap 2:22.22, so it was fairly slow compared to Lucas Zett's lap. And he's actually just lost a lot of time as he seizes the right-hand side tyres going into turn 10 hairpin. Frits van der Zalm goes fastest lap, so I'll shut up what I just said earlier about him losing some performance due to the damage to the front wing. He's just gone the fastest lap with a 1:43.130. It's only a few hundredths faster than the next car, but it will do. He's still the fastest lap. Now, there is a problem emerging for Pazam in the lead LMP1 car, because he will soon be under attack by Tony Rubio and Rob Lewis. Now we're on board with these two GTE cars. These are for 16th and 17th in class, but nevertheless it is still for position as Avandisa goes deep into the corner, and there's a mistake from Tony Rubio, and Rob Lewis gets caught up in it as well. That's going to be damaged, and here comes Puma down onto the outside line. He's not had the advantage that he wanted, but he moves up into third place and onto that podium position. Tony Rubio will suffer damage as a result, and here comes Frits van der Zalm looking to retake that position away and get back up onto the attack by moving into P4. Going 3 wide on the main straight before turn 1, and it looks like these two GTE backmarkers are going for it. 17th and 16th place. Ada moves up by 1 position after having a disastrous start. Both of these cars down on position compared to their qualifying position, and has to be said, not a good day for them, but they're still having fun out there as they still have someone to do battle with. Looks like they're on similar place as well, because Ada was down by 4 positions from his starting position, and Avandisa is down by 6 positions from where he started in qualifying. So it looks like they're in good company. Supiyam goes up by 1 into 11th place because his teammate, oh sorry, the next car down, which is Manux, gets demoted, and the entry into the hairpin dives down the inside and gets the job done quite easily and nicely. Then we have Pazam, who's now been able to regain his time into first place by 6.5 seconds. So we keep seeing this. We keep seeing Pazam get caught up by around until the gap is around 2 seconds, and then the cars behind him have a massive brawl and a punch up in the middle of an apex somewhere. So Pazam doing everything he needs to do at this stage of the race to take it home. 1 hour and 23 minutes remaining. Rob Lewis being held up by one of the Corvette C7s there. On board with James Surrey though, because there's about to be another 3-way battle for P5 in class once again. James Surrey doing enough so far to hang on to this position despite the appearance and presence of Team SD and Matteo Bizzani. Doesn't seem to be phased whatsoever, just getting on with the job and getting just navigating his way around the next corner on a lap by lap basis. Team SD though sticking on to the tail, 0.2 seconds, 0.4 seconds even between these 3 cars alone as they exit Spoon Curve down towards 130R. So Team SD runs a bit wide on the exit of 130R, down towards Casio Triangle they go. Seems to have gained a small advantage as he exit onto the main straight. It all depends on who can get on that power the earliest and carry the most speed through down towards turn 1. In the meantime, Rob Lewis and Puma go in between them all in their own very niche little battle as they fight over second place in class. Battle between Matteo Pisani and Team ASD. They go too wide on the exit of turn 1 towards turn 2 and the first of the S-curves, but everyone resettles back into their original positions. Still in P7 then for Matteo Pisani. Then Team ASD still 0.2 seconds behind Jane Sally, all looking very eager to take that position away, but neither of these guys have the pace to just have that extra edge over one another, and they all seem to be staying in their relative positions. Where is Fritz van der Zalm? Fritz van der Zalm having further issues, probably his first pit stop being made there. Yep, last lap for Fritz van der Zalm, 2:38.930. So Fritz will have come into the pit lane and begun the train of pit stops that we're expected to see any minute now. Of course, this is a long race and we're already around 40 minutes into this 2-hour event. And Puma has actually gone up into second place. So Pazam has made his first pit stop as well. So where is Pazam? He's in the pit lane now. So the leading car has decided now is the time to come into the pit lane and refuel that tank. Rob Lewis now leads as a result, with Puma close behind by 1.7 seconds. Then we got Tony Rubio, who's 2.5 seconds adrift, and Sylvain Valette, who is 30 seconds behind. The top 4 LMP1 cars still due to come into the pit lane for the first round of pit stops. Question is, when will these guys come into the pit lane? Of course, it is down to strategy of how much fuel you take and how much you have on the next stop. That's going to be the deciding factor here this evening. It's about reading the traffic. If you expect to come up with a lot of traffic, then spend longer in the pit lane and get ready for a longer stint and hope for the best by the time you get round to the next one. But of course, it's up to the drivers and what they do, and it is a bit of a game of luck at the same time, especially when you've got endurance racing and such heavy amounts of traffic, especially in the GTE field. Still a battle going on for this P5. Look how close they all are as they come down onto the main straight once again. Down towards turn 1 they go. Team ASD looks down onto the insides. A bit of tap for Jane Sally as he gets pushed wide on the exit of turn 1. That's a bit cheeky there from Team ASD. Will he concede the position back? Yes, he does. Good sportsmanship there. And the winner of that, of course, is Matteo Pisani as he moves back up into P5 in just one corner. Oversteer is still hanging on in there. He's got 9 seconds to gain before he gets onto the back of Rensdikok and Lukaszek. But his lap times aren't that, well, they're on pace, but he needs to find that extra tenth or two if he's going to be able to start catching up and gaining ground against them in that Ferrari 488 of his. He's doing really well so far in this race, already up by 4 positions from his qualifying result, and it'll be such a good end to the series for him to find his way near the top end, or even at the middle of that podium position. Jane Sully looking to defend P6 now then, after that small cheeky bump on the rear end of that Corvette C7. Here comes Pazam down the main straight into 130R, just tucks his way in front of Jane Sully's Corvette C7 before committing to the corner. And we've also got Rune Jansen coming into the mix as well. He's this Corvette C7 behind, and he's made up that ground. It was around 4 seconds that he had to make up, of course, and he has suffered some front-end damage due to the contact made with Fritz and some of the other LMP1 cars earlier on in this race. But it looks like he's finally starting to make some decent headway towards the front of the order. But as we said, still a very long way to go indeed if he's going to win the race overall. Looks like he may have a damaged rear wing as well, judging by the angle of that thing. Yes, it is. Look at the damage to the back of that car. That is completely demolished. That's further damage then for Rune Jansen at this stage of the race. Fingers crossed they have some spare duct tape in the pit lane for that one. Staying on board with these guys at front, or the mid-pack though, because this is the closest battle on grid for the time being until things come to a head at the end of all these pit stops. Then we have also Jonas Koberstein under attack from Manux in the car behind in his lovely painted blue, but it has to be said fairly damaged as well, Corvette C7. Team SD looking to take advantage of that excess speed being carried down into Casio Triangle. He's going to try and cut the curbing on the first of the chicanes to get a nice exit down onto the main straight once more. He's going to have the slipstream, but he's got to watch out for Rune Jansen as well. Although that car is heavily damaged, it may still be a threat with the man behind the wheel. I believe that rear wing is actually moving. Not too sure if that's a graphical feature or not, but it seems to be bending left and right, depending on how he goes around the corner, which would be a great damage model if it is the case. Might just be my eyes though. Now, Rune Jansen, of course, needs to get past these two guys, needs to get past Matteo Pisani, and needs to then catch up even further to Kemal Apanen and Oversteer, and that itself is a further almost 23 seconds, 29 seconds before he even reaches those guys. Looks like Team SC's got the advantage here. He gets a better exit out of the hairpin. He will have been on the power earlier this time round. Is it enough though to get past Jane Sally before he gets to Spoon Curve? And that answer is a no, but there's a seizure of the smoke and puffs from all four corners of Jane Suri, and Jane Suri goes round. Jane Suri spins out at the exit of turn 14, or even the entry to turn 14, and now he has to wait for Jonas Koberstein. Manux and Super Yam to all go through before he can get back underway. That's a disaster to his hopes. Here comes Super Yam into P10 as well, and he's now down into 11th place in class. What a sad end to what has been a great defensive drive here this evening at Suzuka for the driver, and yeah, just not the way I like to see a good effort come to a close. Rune Jansen still on a chart, of course, 0.7 seconds adrift of Team ASD ahead, and this is now, of course, putting him into 7th place. So the cars ahead will be 6th and 5th for position in class. See how he navigates his way around the S-curves. Better exit there on the last of the corners. Of course, that's what it's all about here at Suzuka, is getting over to the right-hand side before you exit the very last S-curve, and it gives you a nice, good drive down into the next corner, which is Degner Curve. Can be an overtaking opportunity, but of course anyone who has half a brain cell will always defend on the inside line, because it's actually driving away from anyone who's attacking around the outside line. And that's why it's so difficult to overtake there, but it is not impossible. I've seen it happen before, and it can be a good overtaking opportunity, especially when you're within a tenth or two of the car ahead. Still hasn't made any ground on that last lap though. Goes deep into the first chicane. It's going to cost him a bit of time, but as he goes onto the main straight. Yeah, it has actually extended now, 0.1 second as he comes across the timing line. So a bit too eager and a bit too much entry speed there by the Nazo Racing driver. Now Puma is leading the race in LMP1, whereas Pazam is around 30 seconds behind, so I believe that Puma still is required to come into the pit lane for his round of pit stop, as is Sylvain Valette, who's just about to be under attack from Pazam. Now he was the old leading LMP1 car, so I'm no doubt that this has been the strategy all along, as whereas Sylvain Valette is coming down the main straight once again. Sadly, I don't have information to have a look into his previous laps to see whether or not he has actually made a pit stop. Let's have a quick look, and I don't believe he has. We know that Pazam has come into the pit lane already, and he's taken the same set of tyres as he goes down the inside and retakes second in class. So a good manoeuvre there. It can be overtaking in the S-curves. It's just not ideal because it can cost you a fair bit of time on a lap-by-lap basis. And when you've got the hybrid system in place, you just want to wait for those long straights before you deploy that and get the full out the back. Oh, Sylvain Valette going down the inside. A nice aggressive driving there from the driver. However, Pazam comes straight back at him though with the hybrid boost, takes that back the second place position and drives on into the distance. Now 0.4 seconds between the two cars. And we have Passy Malinen under attack by Vaffel as well as they come down towards 130R. 0.1 seconds as they enter the corner. Goes deep into the Casio triangle corner, misses the apex completely, and that's going to compromise the exit onto the main straight. And the thing is, Will Vaffel backed off enough to take advantage of that situation. Of course, if you see someone going deep into that particular corner, just simply back off the throttle and allow them to run wide, where you perfect your driving line and get a great exit at the same time. So Sylvain Valette comes into the pit lane as predicted, and he will go back down the order as a result, already in P5. And Puma is in the pit lane as well as predicted. So Pazam takes the lead of the race in LMP1, and he's got a comfortable margin of around 4 seconds from Fritz van der Zaan. Now Lucas Eck, of course, the GTEs will be looking to come in within the next 6 or so minutes, I believe. And now the gap has come down by quite a considerable margin. It's now 0.9 seconds between the two teams. Oh, it looks like maybe Rennes got run a bit wide there on the exit of turn 1, and that will mean that he would have struggled to get the car back in place before he enters the first of the S-curves. Now, has that affected his overall performance? I do not know. We'll have to wait for the next update for the times, or the delta. He actually looks like he's gained some ground before coming into turn 10 hairpin, as they both get heavy onto the brakes. One point through 1.1 seconds according to the live timing now, as they come down towards Spoon Curve for another time. Only 1 hour into this race, or just shy of 1 hour into this race, and they've already been overtaken by the LMP cars twice, and they're soon to be overtaken once more, as Pazam will surely come into view in a short moment's time. In fact, he's only just entering the hairpin, so I'll take that back. Got my misjudgments incorrect there. And a position taken there by Dirk Piot for 13th place, and that's against the Porsche being driven by Van Diesel. That's the leading GTE car though. Lucas Eck still holding on, not giving Rennes any opportunity available to close that gap down, but it looks like he may be starting to push just that extra bit more to put the pressure on Lucas Eck at this stage of the race. Of course, we are just reaching the halfway mark at this point, and it is of the interest of Rennes to just slowly start to apply that psychological pressure to Lucas Eck. We know what result is at stake here. The championship title is in their hands, and of course Lucas Eck just needs to again focus on what's ahead of him and just get those lap times in. Make sure he doesn't make any mistakes whatsoever and give Rennes the advantage. Otherwise, if he does make a single mistake, it will be game over. The championship will be handed to the Nassau Racing driver, who's just behind him, and it'll be a solid second place for him instead. Now these two have been fighting. Oh, and actually Rennes runs wide on the exit of 130R, and he not too sure if he's gained some time there, which he has not. He's still in exactly the same position, so he didn't lose any time and he didn't gain any, Of course, if he did gain any, he would have to surrender that, I'd hope, because that would be completely unfair on the outcome of this race. Last lap 159.898 there by Lukaszek. Lap time set by Rennes de Cote was a 159.860, so it was just by a slither. In fact, 0.03 of a second faster on that last time round. Still not enough to make a significant difference, though. Lukaszek seems pretty unfazed at the moment. He's just doing what he needs to do, getting on with the job at hand. Or the task at hand, should I say. We are expecting these guys to start coming into the pit lane, or think about starting coming into the pit lane very shortly. We'll have to wait and see what kind of strategies unfold here. But we're already halfway through this race, of course. Some of the teams are already in the pit lane. Pazzi Malinen finishes his first pit stop of the race. And Fritz van der Zalm has just set the fastest lap, 1:42.179. Now, Pazam is still leading this race, but here comes Fritz, 1.2 seconds behind. Really close and closing the gap by a considerable margin on a lap-by-lap basis. So Pazam, although has had a good run of things here this evening at Suzuka, it looks like his balloon is about to be popped, so to speak. Has to navigate his way around this GTE traffic. And where is Oversteer? Because he's gone down the order all the way into P6. So is there a mistake there from Oversteer? He was up the order, and in fact he was ahead of Superyam and Matteo Pisani and trying to catch up with Kino Lapanen. But seems to have dropped down the order by quite a considerable margin. His last lap was a 1:42.967. Oh no, sorry, that's his sector 1 time, do apologise. Okay, last lap was a 2:51, so that is confirmed as a pit stop. There's no way he's lost 51 seconds in an entire lap. So Oversteer comes into the pit lane. He's still in P4 as he comes across the timing line, and obviously everyone else is going back down the order. But back on board with Pazam and Fritz van der Zalm. Where has Fritz gone? There he is in the background, coming out on the back of 130R. For those of you that might not have seen him on your screen. And a bit of breathing space, but for how long is the question. Here comes Rune Jansen on Team ASD as well. This is for P7 in class. The LMP1s will need to come into the pits one more time, and the reason for that is they will need to take another load of fuel. But the question, oh, and here comes Rune Jansen down onto the inside. This is towards turn 10, which is the hairpin. Team ASD will defend on the inside line, and puff of smoke from the left-hand side of the car as he tries to slow down to make the apex. Team ASD holding on with everything he's got. He will hug the inside line, going down towards Spoon Curve, and here comes Rune Jansen. Of course, he's forced wide around the long way round, and he will get his nose up alongside that Corvette C7, and he thinks better of it. In fact, he doesn't even have the nose up the inside by the time they get to the braking zone. but he will have the advantage going down towards 130R. Full power from these Corvettes, using all the ponies available. Will he be able to get closer to the front of this race? Kimo Lepinen in the pit lane as well. He's dropping down the order as a result, and Rune Jansen peeping onto the inside line, just thinking, could I make a move there? Probably not. It's not the best idea to go too wide into 130R, although it can sometimes work quite nicely in your favour. Of course, if you do mess it up and you do make contact at 130R, though, it can have severe consequences. 0.2 seconds now as they come down the main straight. Team SD goes defensive as they close the gap down into the braking zone into turn 1, and Rune Jansen will take that position away. Team SD goes down into 9th place. As a result, puffs of smoke coming from the rear end, and that just unsettles the car just ever so slightly, and he goes deep into the corner and loses a tenth or two on Rune Jansen. Now 0.8 seconds already as they go through the S-curves. And here comes Pazam as well, trying to fight his way through this traffic. Not the best or ideal place to come across or encounter a slower class, because here comes Fritz, and he will have a much easier life because he just zooms past both of these cars. Probably won't reach Rune Jansen before he gets to Devney Corner, which is accurate, and he will instead take the position underneath the bridge, which still impedes his performance by no means whatsoever. So he's gained quite a bit of time there. It's 1.4 seconds now to the leading car. And the question is, what's happened to Rob Lewis and Tony Rubio? Because of course it was a really strong performance by all these cars, but since then Rob Lewis has dropped 14 seconds behind Tony Rubio, or sorry, Fritz van der Zalm, and Tony Rubio's a further 3 seconds of drift as well. Puma's had further bad news, and he's 30 seconds behind Tony Rubio in 5th place, and Sylvain Villette is 14 seconds adrift from the nearest competing LMP1 car as well. So that's not good news for the latter half of the LMP1 field, and now Fritz just needs to take care of Pazam before he can comfortably drive into the distance and lead the LMP1 field and the field overall, in fact. Team ASD under attack by Johan Koberstein as well. Got to keep an eye on both of these battles as best we can. Now Pazam will be entering the S-curves under attack from the rest of the field, but these three here, Manux, Johan Koberstein and Veffel, all going for it. Here's Team SD going in the inside, thinking about it. Nope, doesn't get close enough that time round. 0.2 seconds to Manux, that's for P18 class, and then behind is Johan Koberstein, obviously in P10. Tony Rubio attacking Rob Lewis as well, looking for the opportune moment to take away that 3rd place spot. Don't know which one to watch because Pazam is under attack by Fritz van der Zalm at the same time. We'll have a look at the lead of the race. Obviously it has more impact on the overall result. Seems to have got a bit of breathing space there, and someone saying that Lewis and Tony went into the pit lane and that's why they're behind, but so did Pazam and Fritz van der Zalm as well. That's my point. That's why I brought it up, because all of the top 4 LMP1 cars have been into the pit lane at least once. We've witnessed them all come in at the same time or within a few laps of one another, so I'm not too sure what's going on there. And actually, come to think of it, it may be a strategic issue or a strategic factor, because we already know that the LMP1s need to make 2 fewer pit stops and on one stop they will need to take a large quantity of fuel, and another stop they will take a low quantity of fuel. So maybe I'm wondering if Pazam and Fritz have taken a low quantity of fuel for their first pit stop and will fill the tank to the brim for the second pit stop. But we will have to wait and see. But that may explain why that is how it is. But only time will tell. Of course, they still have the traffic to contend with, and it will be a luck of the draw. And how quickly they can slice through the traffic in order to get to the checkered flag. Of course, they will need to take out tyres as well. But obviously they all need to do that. That won't affect their overall times at all. But the fuel will, however. And fuel takes quite a considerable amount of time when you're talking about the LMP1 cars, because they drink it like nothing else. You know, it's almost a high consumable factor, because they lose so many litres per lap. Of course, that's because the hybrid, all the power, all the horsepower these guys have, and alongside the hybrid technology as well, infuses the technology and propels them down the road at even higher speeds. And of course, the higher speeds you go, the higher the fossil fuels will burn at the same time. But I will have to wait until the second set round of pit stops for the LMP1 field to see who stands where and who has decided what kind of fuel load they're going to take for their first round. This is what I don't like being about a commentator. I can't get inside the heads or inside the pit lane of these guys, so I'm going a bit blind as to what kind of tactics are unfolding and who's doing what. But at the moment, all I can see in front of me is that Pazam is in a lot of trouble, because Fritz is looking very racy with 50 minutes remaining, and he wants the lead of this race. He's going to have to use the hybrid boost to defend against Fritz here as they come down towards 130R. The slipstream will be in effect 2.97, 2.4 seconds, 2.2 seconds, 1.9 seconds as they come down toward the hairpin. Pazam defends down the inside line. That's going to compromise his entry into the chicane, and he's right on his trumpet there as he comes onto the exit down onto the main straight out of Casio Triangle. Of course, the hybrids, it's all about perfecting that braking technique, making sure you're trail braking at the right moment to make sure that you've got the hybrid boost available to defend against your competitors. Now, if he can get past this Corvette C7 before they get to the S-curves, that will help him a massive deal. But sadly, it looks like maybe that was Super Yam. Gets out of the way, doesn't want to get involved. I can't blame him, to be honest. And that therefore is... Oh, Renstacott takes the lead of GTE down into turn 1. What a development. We've just missed the end of that one, but that just literally just happened. Renstacott down into turn 1. Heavy braking, and Lukaszek gets demoted down into second place. This could be the championship on the line here for Lukaszek. He needs to retake that position away in order to win the GTE Driver Championship. Can he come back at him? He's still within striking distance, of course. 0.2 seconds as they come down towards Degner Corner. Really do wish I had a replay feature here. That will be something for next season, I hope, because we're missing some action that is vital to the end result of this race. And of course the championship as well. There's just a few points between these two guys, and whoever wins this race will win the championship as well. So everything is on the line for these guys. Now, of course, Rune Jansen is also in the driving run-up for the championship as well, but unfortunately he got disqualified for qualifying and he couldn't set one of his amazing lap times. Oh, Renstacott going a bit wide there into turns 14, and that's going to compromise the exit speed and his run down towards 130R. Here comes Lukaszek on the attack. Look at the speed that he's gaining. It's 0.4 seconds, 0.43, 0.41, 3.9. Not as much as I was hoping he would gain, to be honest, but there you go. Seems to have lost a bit of time, 0.7 seconds now as they come out of the last corner. We'll head over to Bazam and Fritz van der Zaan because they're still going for it in the LMP1 class. Bazam got held up slightly by the Porsche GTE, and he's got Johan to navigate his way around as well. That's Johan Koberstein in the blue Corvette C7 there. 0.5 seconds separating Renz de Kock and Lucas Eck now as well. Through 130R, full commitment by both the drivers. Pazam's flashing his headlights, trying to get past the Corvette C7, and he gets ahead of Fritz, who wasn't able to get past the Corvette C7 in the nick of time before they reached the apex. We've had two more DNFs this time round in the form of Adder and Van der Sar. By looks of things, they're both in the pit lane. Not too sure if they're just there for tyres and fuel or not, but they're going way down the order. Not too sure if they've retired or not. Back to the GTE battle though with Renz de Kock and Lucas Eck. Still 0.7 seconds between one another as they come down into 130R. Renz de Kock runs a slight bit wide on the curbing there. Needs to be careful of that because it can snap and spin the car around. Both over the curbing this time round, and see if he can get a nice slipstream onto the main straight. 0.7 seconds to come down, accelerating to the start-finish line. His last lap was a 1:59.487 for Renz de Kock, whereas Lucas Eck only doing 1:59.572, so he's losing about a tenth per lap at current rate. Back to the LMP1 battle because Fritz is trying to find his way around, but once again frustrating for the JMT hybrid driver as another GTE car blocks his way to the lead of this race. 0.5 seconds now as they come down the start-finish straight. That's got to be absolutely infuriating when you're so close to taking that position away, only for one of them to reappear in front of you and ruin your day. Of course, I've been there many times myself, been endurance racing for plenty of years. Of course, you understand that you have to show respect to one another, make sure that you are leaving enough racing room, but it can all very close there between Pazam, and I think that was Team ASD there navigating his way around the circuit. Got Rune Jansen trying to make his way up the order as well. He's currently in P7, I believe. P6 rather, apologies. But as I was saying, got to make sure when you're in a multi-class race that you show respect to each other. Make sure there's enough racing room when you're overtaking. Of course, you have to remember that everyone is having their own little race, no matter where they are in the standings of things. And of course, sometimes when you're in a situation like Pazam and Fritz where you want to take the lead of the race, it can be absolutely infuriating. You completely forget that other people are a racer. You just see other cars as mobile obstacles or mobile roadblocks, and it can sometimes get to you. And you know, when you're in the driving seat, you're thinking, get the hell out of the way, I want to get through, come on, hurry up already, I want to make sure I get to this apex and all this lark. But once you get out the car, you just think to yourself, right, okay, yeah, I was a bit of an idiot there, was a bit too aggressive in that corner at that moment in time, and that's when you realise that you know, they're all having their own small little race at some point down the order, and Pazam really struggling to get past Rune Jansen there as he comes through the first of the S's. Just a prime example of what I mean. They're just trying to find every gap going to make sure that they don't lose the race, and Pazam goes wide into the gravel trap. He goes, and that's lost him the lead of the race. Fritz takes advantage and stays within the grey stuff, and now has a 3.5 second lead in LMP1. What an absolute disaster for Pazam. He's been doing extremely well. We know that he is not the fastest guy here, but he's shown that he can go shoulder to shoulder with the guys at the front, especially with the likes of Fritz, who's won 3 out of 6 races this season. And he's been managing the traffic extremely well. He's been fighting his corner, and it's just a shame that it had to end that way. Rensdicott now extending his lead to 1.4 seconds. Oh, and there's a mistake there. I think that's Tony Rubio. Yes, it is. P5 in LMP1. Had a spin entering the first corner. Not the most ideal of situations, but he still carries on, and it's going to cost him a fair bit of time in the long run. Now, Rob Lewis is making good headway as well. 0.7 points. I don't mean 0.7. I mean 7 seconds adrift of Pazam in second place. Pazam himself now 5 seconds shy of the overall leader. With Rensdicott once again though. .6 seconds now, so the lead is extending by quite a considerable margin. Lukaszek needs to find some form of pace out of the bag, otherwise he will find himself losing this championship. Still 39 minutes remaining in this race though. Plenty of time to get it done. Gap is starting to extend by quite a considerable margin now between Pazam and the leading man, Fritz van der Zalm. 9.5 seconds as things stand, and Rob Lewis is the one to watch out for because he's gaining by quite a considerable pace in his Audi R18. Quite a considerable difference in sound there in this particular LMP1 car. Obviously diesel powered, I believe. Do correct me if I am wrong. bit too much entry speed into the Casio triangle there, and it's going to cost him a few tenths, if not a few more. And Fritz is into the pit lane for the final time, so that is the last remaining stop that he needs to do before we get to the checkered flag. Tony Rubio still going round in P5 as well, with Puma ahead by around 9 seconds. Sylvain Villette still going strong, bless him, after having a pretty much disastrous race here this evening at Suzuka. But he is still going strong and will complete this race by the looks of things. It's never a good feeling being around 46 seconds off the overall leader, but at least he can say that he finished the final round, which is more than enough for some people. Of course, finishing any of these races is an achievement in itself. Multi-class racing is one of the most challenging forms of motorsport, whether virtual or real, in the world. You know, Formula One, you see Sebastian Vettel or Lewis Hamilton just simply drive away into the distance because they've got the most money and therefore the most high-tech performance gear and mechanical parts. But when it comes to multi-class racing, it's not just about having the best car, it's about how well your driver is able to navigate his way around the traffic, how well you implement your strategy. There's so many outside factors that can really affect the outcome of the race itself. And that's why I personally think it's the best form of motorsport out there in the world currently. You know, you can up to 3 or 4 classes in most series, such as the IMSA or the WEC, and you just don't get any form of challenge like it, especially with the race distance. Of course, you get 24-hour races, 12-hour races, you know, 10-hour races with Petit Le Mans. You really can have unlimited time out on circuit, and it's impossible to complete on your own. It's a team effort, not just by yourself, but obviously other drivers as well. Sadly, it looks like Circuit Corsa doesn't have the ability to conduct driver changes. That's why we personally have ours on rFactor 2. But you know, it still offers a great adrenaline boost, and yeah, I think I'm rambling on a bit there, but you get the point. Matteo Bazzani under attack by Rune Jansen, 0.56 seconds adrift, and this is going to be for P5. He's still hanging on in there and trying to take this position away. .5 seconds as they enter turn 8, Degner curve, and underneath the bridge once more they go. 0.4 seconds now between Matteo Bazzani and Rune Jansen. Of course, he will get P5 if he can navigate his way around this green Corvette C7, and that's going to be essential points for him, but it won't be enough to secure the lead of the championship itself. That is in the hands of Rensikok and Luka Zek, who is currently leading the race by around 2.5 seconds. So Lukaszek not having a good time at this stage of the race. 33 minutes remaining. He needs to stay within striking distance. Now you have to ask yourselves, Lukaszek has been in charge of this race by quite a considerable margin for quite some time now. They've both obviously conducted their driver change. They've sorry, not their driver change, their pit stops. They've got a new set of mediums and another full tank of fuel. Obviously Suzuka is quite a high tyre degradation track. Obviously these high speed corners, especially the S curves and similar, really do torture the tyres, and you'll be getting blistering fairly quickly. So impossible for the GTEs to double stint this set of mediums. I think they'll be fairly crazy if they did decide to do it. But that's why it's important for Lukaszek to stay attached as close as possible to Rensikok. And now the issue that he's got at present is the GTE. Oh no, he's actually just got out of the way. So that's that's really helped him here, and it's not Super Yam, it's his teammate in the same kind of paint scheme. I'm not too sure who it is, but he's got out of the way just in the nick of time, and now Lucas really needs to focus. It's game time. Put down that visor and start giving us some really good lap times. Your best lap time is a 1:59.1. Your last was a 1:59.591. So it's time to really focus and start thinking about the end result of this race, because the championship is on the line, my friend. And if you're not focused enough, then Rens de Coq is going to take it away from the jaws of defeat. Matteo Bazzani defending against Rune Jansen there for P5. It looks like he's got the job done. Yes, he has, around the outside of the hairpin of turn 10. And that's the position in the bag. Matteo Bazzani coming right back at him, though. He's got the extra pace coming into Spoon Curve. Thinks better of it, not able to get the job done. Let's have a look at the lead of LMP1. We know that Rob Lewis still needs to come into the pit lane. He needs to make one more stop before he can get to the end of this one. For his Van der Stam, he's already gone into the pit lane, as has Pazam. Last lap was 2:35, so he's quite just literally come out of the pit lane. He's 10 seconds adrift of Fritz, so he will, there's a fairly high chance that he will come home in second place. Now that all eyes on Rob Lewis and when he will come into the pit lane. Last lap 1:43.645 as he navigates his way around some GTE traffic. And Tony Rubio is within striking distance of Puma in that very nicely painted blue LMP1 hybrid car. And it looks like maybe that Lucas Ek has listened to my advice, because he's now within striking distance of Rens de Coq, 0.7 seconds as they come down into the next set of corners. I think that may have something to do with that LMP1 car that's just gone down the main straight, if I'm truly honest, because for Rens de Coq to make such a major mistake would be unheard of. And then the further mistake for Rens de Coq is he goes wide into the apex of turn 1, and that's really brought Lucas Ek into the game. I would love to hear or hear the thoughts going through this guy's head right now, because it could be make or break time for these two guys. The championship is on the line here at the moment. Of course, we have another battle going on in LMP1 as well. That's between Puma and Tony Rubio, but we're going to stay with these guys because they quite literally have to beat one another in order to take home the cup for this season. Two Corvette C7s going down this great circuit that we know as Suzuka in Spoon Curve. They go 3.5 seconds, oh sorry, not 3.5, 0.3 seconds between them as they navigate their way around turns 13 and 14 into the main straight. They go down towards 130R. The slipstream is in effect. Lucas Ek losing a bit of time though, 0.5 seconds compared to what it was earlier. So once again, are we seeing that Lucas Ek is struggling with staying behind Rens de Coq? I'm not too sure. Here comes the LMP1 cars of Puma and Rubio, who are themselves fighting over 4th place in class. .8 seconds now between Lukaszek and Renz de Kock. As we said, looks like maybe Renz has been holding back and preserving that tyre life, as opposed to Lukaszek, who seems to be struggling just that bit at this stage of the race. Only 27 minutes remaining, so if he's going to do anything, it needs to be soon. Puma under attack from Tony Rubio. Great noise from the LMP1 car as he goes under that bridge for just that split second. Seems to have an echoing effect, which has a nice effect on my eardrums. It's like music to my ears. Just looking down the order in terms of the GTEs, we've had quite a few retirements, only 20 cars still going around, so 4 DNFs thus far, but everyone seems to have a quite large gap between themselves. In fact, the only 2 cars that are close to one another, or within a second of one another, are of course the leading GTEs and these 2 gentlemen in front of us here. Puma having to defend on the inside line this time by from Tony Rubio, 0.2 seconds behind as he enters the S-curse for the next time. Holding on with everything he has. It's a good chunk of points here for Puma if he can take this one home. 0.7 seconds separating the 2 front GTE cars. We're keeping a hawk eye on that live timing, don't worry. So if anything develops or if they get closer than what they are now, then we will switch camera views immediately. But at the moment, at present, these 2 cars are slightly closer to one another, so we'll keep on these for now. And as we speak, Renz de Kock is under attack once again. 0.3 seconds adrift is the championship contending man of Lukaszek, and he's not going to let him go without a fight, it seems, because they're both really going for it as they come underneath the bridge and towards to turn 10 hairpin. Wider line there used by Lukaszek as they come on towards Spoon Curve for God knows how many times. I don't even know which lap we're on anymore because it's really fast-paced stuff going on here this evening. He's got on the rear wing 0 gravity, so I'm not sure that's the same kind of situation of the weight on his shoulders, because he knows for a fact if Lukaszek catches up by just a few more tenths, then he could be in trouble. Rob Lewis in second place, but just by the skin of his teeth, because here comes Pazam. 0.6 seconds between these 2 guys as well. There's battles going on everywhere. I can't keep up with this anymore. Puma and Tony Rubio going at it for P4. Pazam and Rob Lewis going at it for P2 in LMP1. And then we've got the battle between Lukaszek and Renz de Kock as well. And they're 0.3 seconds between one another. Of course, this is the battle that will always take priority due to the situation regarding the championship standings. 0.191 seconds right now, and there's a flash of headlights from Renz de Kock. Not too sure what that was about. There was no traffic around them at the time. Here comes Lukaszek. He's gaining as he comes down towards Degner curve. Has he got close enough to make the move? No, he's not. He's tucked in nicely behind both of them. Cut the corner on the inside line of the curbing as they go towards the underneath of the bridge. And it looks like Lucasette runs a bit deep onto the exit of turn 9. All both down towards turn 10 though, looking into that braking zone, making sure that they are square perfect for the braking zone. And Lucasette still attached like... No, I can't even think right now of an abbreviation to use, if I'm truly honest, because I just can't wait until these two guys go head to head. Here comes Puma and Tony Rubio. They're going too wide down into turn 1. This is for 4th in class. Tony Rubio has the inside line. It's a fairly easy overtaking manoeuvre there. Not really much of a fight put up by Puma that time round. 0.5 seconds between Renz de Kock though and Lucasette. And here comes Puma coming back at him. We'll switch back just for a split second because Tony Rubio is being held up by one of the Corvette C7s in the S-curves. Tony Rubio also gets stuck behind as well. Has to go the long way round in order to get past. Okay, now here's some action for you guys. 0.2 seconds between Lucasette and Renz de Kock. Here they come onto the start-finish line. The slipstream will come into effect as they come down the start-finish straight towards turn 1. 0.3 seconds. 0.2 seconds as he enters the braking zone. Not close enough this time by, but he gets a nice entry into turn 1. And we'll look up the inside into the exit of turn 1. There's a bit of contact between Renz de Kock and Lucasette, and he gets pushed onto the grass as a result, but takes the lead of the race. Renz de Kock left the door wide open. He's flashing his headlights saying, "That's not on. I was not left any racing room." But as far as I'm concerned, I think that's a bit of a racing incident because Renz de Kock left the door wide open. Obviously, Lucasette taking advantage of the situation, and Renz de Kock was nowhere near alongside when that contact happened, I believe. And it was just a bit of a side bump where he struggled with all of his might to make sure that he was still in the lead by the time he regained that track position, but it wasn't going to happen. All on here then. This is going to definitely spice things up here for these two cars. They know now that it is rubbing and racing for sure. Obviously anything goes as long as I get across that start finish line before you do, because it is really vital for these guys here that they do so. Here comes, I think that was Rob Lewis in between the two of them. He is still under attack. Sorry, apologies, that wasn't even them. That was Sylvain Valette going and slicing in between these two cars. Apologies for the motion sickness that I've just caused with all of these camera changes. Brune Jansen trying to make a move on Kimo Lapanen as well. 0.2 seconds as they come into Spoon Curve. Ruud Lewis just hit the fastest lap of the race, 141.823. So he is really on a charge here. Of course, he's trying to get away from Pazam, who's in 3rd place and by a close margin. So we'll see what happens here. He's actually behind Frits van der Zalm, so it could be a change for the lead in LMP1. You guys are all saying that Lucasette's going to get a penalty. I personally don't think so. Renz de Kock made the mistake. He ran wide and he was in a desperate attempt tried to get back on the power and retake that racing line as quickly as possible. By that time, Lucasette was already committed onto that inside line and was already carrying that speed. If he even touched those brakes for one split second, he would have lost control of that Corvette C7. I don't see any issue with that move. Sure, it's a shame they made contact. There was plenty of room on the racing line, but given the situation, I think that's down to a racing incident. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, if anyone else wants to have a different opinion in terms of obviously the race stewards. Ooh, Rob Lewis goes wide onto the exit of 130R, and in fact this is the leading battle between the GTE cars, so please be careful, don't get too feisty with these guys, because we want to see these guys wheel to wheel for the remainder of this race. 17 minutes remaining as they come across the start-finish line. But as I was finishing my previous remark, I think that was a racing incident. Obviously, my word is not final. I'm nowhere near, or I'm not in a position to comment on the official verdict of anything. But that's, you know, from my experience, that is my position on the matter. Kimmo Lappinen under attack by Rune Jansen. Of course, he's had a hard weekend, or hard evening. Not able to get up the order as far as he had hoped. And of course, very competitive mid-pack GTE here this evening as well. So he hasn't been able to fight for the overall lead of this race whatsoever. Now, Luke Zek 1.3 seconds ahead for the time being. Looks like the LMP1 traffic has assisted him in getting away just ever so slightly. And the question is, will we find out if a penalty is going to be issued before or after this live stream ends? Because, you know, it'd be a shame for one to be issued after we announce the winners, or they come across the line. It's going to be a lot of suspense in the Discord channel if that's the case. But obviously, I won't let that get in the way of this event. It's still 0.7 seconds between the two of them. In fact, Frits van der Zalm is under attack by Rob Lewis in the Audi R18. Now, of course, we know that Rob Lewis did take tyres. He's now on soft, so he will have the extra pace, whereas Frits van der Zalm, although on a set of mediums, is not on the same kind of power or pace. Looks like the three-stop strategy may be one to look at. We already know that they've already made 2 stops. They would have started on one set of mediums. They would have taken another set, but it looks like he's decided to take another set of tyres instead of double stinting at least one of the ones that he has with him. And it's paying off because he set the fastest lap of the race and he's within striking distance of the leader as well. Frits van der Zalm using all the hybrid technology and boost to get down the back straight. Through 130R he goes. Kimmo Lappinen still under attack by Rune Jansen. This is for P4 in class. He will go defensive for the inside line. That means Rune Jansen can get a nice early drive, but he doesn't get in the position that I was thinking he was going to do. Thought he was going to go a lot deeper into the corner and try and get the undercut, but he does not on that time by. Here comes Luca Zek, who's now 1.40 seconds ahead of Renzicott. They both come down the start-finish straight. It's going to be a drag race down into the apex of turn 1. Side by side, looks like Renzicott has the extra speed. Into the braking zone they go. Lucas X holds the inside line and the position as a result, and Renzicott files in close behind once more. Here comes Pume in the background though as well, and we go back to Frits van der Zalm in the LMP1 field because they're going at it still with Rob Lewis close on his tail. We're going to have to keep checking to and fro, I'm afraid. 0.25 seconds between the two of them. Rob Lewis now 0.5 seconds adrift as they come back down into turn one, the S-curves. We'll keep on board with Lucasette for the time being, because of course they are just going down the back straight towards 130R. The slipstream will be in effect. How close will he get though is the question. 12 minutes remaining in this race. Mr. Cop runs wide. Here comes Rob Lewis. He was about 0.1 seconds behind. He's trying to get a nice undercut there on the exit of turn 10. Of course, I don't know where to look. My eyes going left and right. I want to capture all the action as much as possible. We'll come back to Rob Lewis in just a second, because they will be due to go back on down to the back straight towards 130R once more, and that's when the hybrid technology will come into place. There may be an overtake there for the LMP1 lead. And of course, we've got a battle going on our hands for the GTE lead as well. So, decisions to be made. And I'll have to be very careful about who I watch and when. Rob Lewis now 1 second behind Fritz at the moment, so not the best performance for that time round. Maybe run into some GTE traffic, we don't entirely know. Looks like the gap is slowly beginning to extend now. Over 1 second between Lukaszek and Rens de Cotte. 10 minutes remaining. Obviously, there's plenty of time for him to catch back up, but it has to be said, and that is that time is slowly running out. Lukaszek needs to focus with everything he's got. Of course, he knows that he has the advantage at the moment, and Rens de Cotte just needs to be that extra bit careful when going through some of these corners. He seems to be pushing just that extra bit too hard, and costing him a few tenths or two in certain corners. Rob Lewis going really deep into Spoon Curve there. Went wide on the exit. Okay, Rens de Cotte seems to have rectified the issues that he had on the previous lap, as he's now 0.5 seconds behind as they go into the S-curves. A bit of a wide entry into the second of the S-curves. So now look, he's now compromised the entry into the long right-hander, which is frankly one of the more important parts of Sector 1, to be frank, because you need to master the exit of this corner. Now look at what Lukaszek is doing. He's extending his lead now 0.85 seconds ahead as a result of that small tiny error. And that's what's so tricky about this track here, Suzuka, is that for Sector 1 you have to really be careful about what you do and where you position your car, especially through those S-curves. If you mess up one entry, if you mess up one apex, then the entire complex of corners can be pretty much screwed up and lost, because you're always having to compensate for what you've already made a mistake a few corners back. Rob Lewis 0.2 seconds behind Fritz van der Zalm. Really good battle going on here. Of course, this is medium tyres as opposed to softs on Rob Lewis's car, so he has the advantage for the time being. Seems to be that Fritz is using the hybrid technology as and when he feels like it, though. But where's Rob going to come back at him? He's lost a lot of time being stuck behind that GTE car. They did get out of the way as quickly as they could, but of course there's only so fast that they can go through some of these corners. Back to the leading GTE battle though, 7.5 minutes remaining. It's been a long race, but it is finally coming to a close here this evening. Both stuck behind Oversteer, who's currently still in 3rd place. Really strong performance by the Ferrari 488 driver there. This is the part where we see Rob Lewis regain that ground. I don't really know where he's boosting, or whether or not he's not as good at retaining a high level of boost compared to Chris van der Zalm or not, but he seems to just be losing a lot of time on the straights. It's already 1.2 seconds as they come through 130R, where before he went into turn 10 it was about 0.2 seconds. So not too sure what's going on there, but he's now even 0.17 seconds behind, so it's even getting worse as this lap is completed. For Rob Lewis, maybe the soft tyres have finally said, hey, I've had enough now, end of this, and I'm not going to grip anymore. But we'll soon see. It's now 1 second between the two of them. Of course, that's because they've just had to navigate their way around Rens de Coq, and Lucas Eck is in the S-curves as well. Where's this going to affect them? Chris van der Zalm decides to be patient. Nicely done. And Lucas Eck's going to stay on the high side of the track surface to allow the leading LMP1 cars through. It's now 1.9 seconds between Lucas Eck and Rens de Coq as they go towards turn 10. Look at the boost difference. That is incredible there from Fritz. 0.4 seconds down the back straight, even through 130R, and the gap is still extending even now as he comes heavily down into the braking zone. We've now got Pazam in this battle as well. It's a three-way for position 1, because here they go past the GTE car of Pasi Malinen. A small bit of boost there from Pazam before he gets down to Degner Curve, but now he's got stuck behind, I think that's Johan Koberstein. It is, in his blue Corvette C7, haven't seen him in a while. He's currently sitting in 11th place overall. 3 minutes remaining until the final round of the ACRL WEC is concluded. Will Fritz be able to hang on long enough? Of course, Pazam is now 3 seconds adrift compared to these guys. You've got Sylvain Valette in the background there as well, in the or just ahead rather of Fritz in his Audi R18. But 2 teammates side by side. Whether or not they're going to help one another, I do not know. No, he decides to get out of the way. That's what we like to see. Just to let the guys do battle, and may the best man win. The R18 gaining ground through the S-curves, 0.4 seconds, 0.2 seconds even, as they come over the brow of the final curve. One and a half minutes left. It's going to be an extra lap, I do believe, before we get to the end of this race. Lap times are around 1:40, and they're already halfway across this lap. So 1.5 laps remaining in this race. A puff of smoke from Fritz's car as he comes down into the hairpin at turn 10. It's not enough, though, to phase the Toyota Hybrid as he zooms down the road. 0.8 seconds now between the 2 cars. Obviously using his hybrid boost at that moment in time. There's no way, surely, that he has that much of an advantage. One 1.1 seconds now as they come down towards 130R for one of the last final times. Going back to the battle between GTE, Lukaszek still has a large advantage of 2.2 seconds compared to Rennes de Kock. So unless something happens between now and then, it'd be pretty hard a stretch to imagine a different outcome to what's about to happen. Of course, it is a shame that it's going to be concluded by a political nature, it seems, after the small incident they had at turn 1, or the exit of turn 2 rather. But obviously we will see what that is. Rob Lewis doing everything he can. And it is the last lap for these guys. Not too sure if the GTs will have to complete one more. I believe they will. And Lukaszek is leaving left and right as he comes across the start-finish line. I think he realises now that surely he's going to have to complete one more lap. I think he does, because he was weaving left and right thinking, I've won, I've won. Wait, no I haven't. Yep, well done. Because Fritz van der Zalm is on the last lap, the leader is on the last lap, not the GTE, so that's not the case. But maybe he's celebrating prematurely, but that's now cost him about half a second, all that weaving around. So it's 1.5 seconds to Rennes de Kock behind. And Fritz van der Zalm comes down towards 130R for the last time. He has led a commanding season. He's got a nice, comfortable lead. He's won half of the races here. Now to be 4 wins of the season overall for JMT Hybrid. Fritz van der Zalm takes the victory here at Suzuka for the final round of the ACRL WEC. A commanding victory, and it has not been easy for him here this afternoon or this evening, as Rob Lewis and Pazam have definitely put on a show on their own. Rob Lewis comes home in 2nd place, followed by Pazam in 3rd. Then we have Tony Rubio in 4th and Puma in 5th. Sylvain Valette comes home after a disastrous start to this race in 6th place, finishing off the LMP2 field. But all eyes on the GTEs, I guess, because they're about to complete their race as well. And it has been an up and down season for Lukaszek. He hasn't had the best performance through the season, but when it counted, he has stepped up to the mark and put his foot in the door to say, I'm here and I am definitely a contender for this championship, and he is going to win the ACRL WEC GTE class in his Corvette C7. That isn't a great performance by the driver. Really strong drive between these two teams. It's just a shame that Runes Jansen has not been able to join them in this three-way battle. Of course, both of the drivers could have potentially won the championship. Rens de Kock comes home in second place. Oversteering his Ferrari 488 comes across the start-finish line in third. A great performance from him, up from 4 positions compared to his starting position in qualifying. And Runes Jansen, although a valiant attempt to get in contention here this evening, he sadly, despite making up ground of 14 places, comes home in 4th, just shy of a podium position. And that is that, really. So those are the results for you. We'll get them just in front of us now. Of course, we've already just read out the podium positions. So not really much to explain there. And we've also run through also the LMP1 field in full. And if we just go outside to P5 then for the GTE straight away, it's Kimo Lapanen in 11th place overall, followed by Super Yam. He's in 6th in class. Then we have Matteo Bazzani in 7th, followed by Jane Sally. Then we have Jane Koberstein, Pasi Malinen, Manux, Team ASD in 18th, Vafel in 19th, Dirk Biho in 20th, and then we have the rest of the DNS, which is Mario Hur, Avandazar, Adir, and Smarties Wells. So it's been a great season here for the ACRL WEC. It's my first time commentating for the series, and I fully hope that they will come into contact with me again to do the next season. But there's not really much else to say. Then it's been a great season. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you guys and to give me the privilege of hosting and commentating on these races. There's been some absolutely phenomenal wheel-to-wheel action all right down to the wire, as seen by the championship standings. Congratulations to all of the guys that have won here this evening, and including the championship winners as well. And I very much hope that you have a great Christmas and New Year's. But from us here in the commentary box and for the ACRL WEC, thank you and good night.